confidence in the electoral process.
Call Denise Roach.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. The Greens will be supporting this bill. It is weak in parts, but it is the step in the right direction. And that's the direction that the Greens feel very passionately about, and that's about ensuring there is transparency and accountability in elections. The Greens have got a really good track record for creating bills and legislation that ensure transparency in our democracies. We believe that local government elections should be subjected to the same scrutiny as general elections. We've always resisted any attempts by the wealthy to buy elections, and we've just had an example in Auckland recently where the citizens and ratepayers, or community and ratepayers trustees of the Auckland Energy Consumer Trust, changed the rules of their organisation, which is owned by the public, so that they could post out a $320 dividend to every electricity account holder in Auckland, and they also posted a nice picture of themselves, and the voting papers arrived within a few days. Needless to say, the same CNR trustees were re-elected. This bill won't fix that, but it will go some way towards creating a system where there are some limits on the amount of money that can be donated to a local government election campaign anonymously, and that's the part we agree with. For some time now, we've had our own bill in the ballot, the Local Electric Financial Amendment Bill, which puts a cap on donations by individuals or groups at the sum of $5,000 and removes the ability to have anonymous donations for any amount over $500. And it also has rules for the regulation of third-party spending and penalties for avoiding the rules relating to donations. And as well as that, as my colleagues have already said, it ensures there is a register for pecuniary interest for members of local authorities, and that would be open to the public. Amongst other things, in my bill, the preamble says that the purpose of it is to maintain public and political confidence in the administration of local body elections. It also says to prevent the undue influence of wealth on electoral outcomes and provide greater transparency and accountability on the part of candidates and other persons engaged in election activities in order to minimise the perception of corruption. And we've had this bill in the ballot since before the last elections. Public confidence. It's certainly something that we need a lot more of now, and we're more justified in wanting a bill like this now because of the behaviour, as others have stated, of Mr John Banks during his campaign to become mayor of the super city in Auckland. The legislation that forced the amalgamation of the councils, the 7 councils in Auckland, is partly to blame for the fact that there is now more than ever a need to mend our political system so that we are more transparent. The legislation that created the super city created the super mayor, and it created the super allowance, the super spending allowance, with more than $500,000 being allowed for each mayoral campaign candidate. And this is why there was so much forgotten soliciting for forgotten donations during Mr Banks' failed campaign. The second point of my local electoral finance amendment bill is to prevent the undue influence of wealth on electoral outcomes. This bill says that donations can only be anonymous of $1,500 or lower. The donation from Sky City, for example, would not have been anonymous. And under this system, which we support, Mr .com would have to split his cheques not into two $25,000 sums, but into 33.33 cheques, which I think would give him overuse syndrome. When you consider that this bill is really an attempt to remove the wriggle room that allowed Mr Banks to fudge his campaign returns and to get away with it, we need this bill more than ever. We will be supporting it. The Prime Minister is on record as saying that the previous legislation, the existing legislation, is an ass. Well, we think this legislation could be stronger, but we agree that this is probably about covering the one that belongs to Mr Banks.
called Jamie Lee Ross.